Welcome to the Top of Mind podcast from Altos Research. This is the show where we talk to real estate industry insiders and experts about the trends shaping the market today. Enjoy the show. Mike Simonson here. Thanks for joining me today. Welcome to the Top of Mind podcast. For 3 years now, we've been discussing the latest market data in our weekly Altos Research video series. With the Top of Mind podcast, we're looking to add the context to the discussion about what's happening in the market, from the leaders in the industry. So each week, Altos Research tracks every home for sale in the country, all the pricing, all the supply and demand, all the changes in that data, and we make it available to you before you see it in the traditional channels. People desperately need to know what's happening in the housing market right now. The market was frozen so solid last year, and now that's surprisingly the landscape is changing again. So if you need to communicate about the market to your clients, your buyers and sellers, go to altosresearch.com and just book a free consult with our team. Let us review your local market and how you can use market data in your business. All right, let's get to the show today. I have a great guest today, Stephanie Anton. Stephanie is the president of Corcoran Affiliates, where she oversees the growth and operations of Corcoran, the Corcoran Group's global expansion of the fast-growing brokerage affiliate franchise network. Since launching the affiliate network in February of 2020, just before the pandemic, Corcoran has been recognized as one of the fastest growing franchise brands in the industry. Before she joined Corcoran, she was president of the Luxury Portfolio International for leading real estate companies of the world, also known as Leading RE. She's been named to multiple prestigious awards, as the Swanepoel 200 list of the most influential people in real estate, Inman's 101 list of innovative leaders, Riz Media's newsmakers, and of course, Housing Wire's Women of Influence. Many other industry accolades. So in short, Stephanie's a heavy hitter. Well, Stephanie, welcome. And I wanted to have you on so that we could discuss the growth of the industry, what's on the horizon. You have a global perspective. We have from a broker growing, like there's so many of these dynamic things in the industry that I just wanted to talk about, all the things that you see out there.
Fun. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And Mike, I've been a fan of Altos, but I think it's probably 20 years I've been here. And
we've been out there for a long time.
Yeah, right. But it's just, I think you do a great job really synthesizing data in a really a way that people can understand, and you make it relevant and relatable. And I love the Housing Wire, acquisition of your business. And so it's been fun. So congratulations and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Terrific. Okay, so let's start with Corcoran. For the listeners who don't know Corcoran as a brand, why don't you give us the quick overview?
Yeah. So Corcoran is a 50-year-old company, actually. And a lot of people don't even know it because it's always been in New York and then ultimately to the Hamptons, Palm Beach, and Miami. So it's just a company, that's where the company-owned business is. And it's run really in Manhattan and the Hamptons for a long, long time. And was started, of course, by Barbara Corcoran, well known by many people at Shark Tank. Well, a lot of people don't know that she long ago sold the business. She actually sold it in 2001 to Sendant, which then became Realogy, which is now Anywhere. And funny story, she sold it on September 10th of 2001, so the day before 9/11. Yeah. And then we launched our franchise in, as you said, February of 2020, a month before the pandemic. So, when we do big things, watch out. But it's a lifestyle brand. It's a high-end brand that has always done well in, obviously, really important key luxury markets in our country. And it's the number one real estate brokerage in Manhattan for the third year in a row. It's a company that I'd say I had a crush on it from far away, because I always loved the brand and I thought they were so creative and with the marketing. And so I'm, truly honored to be leading our growth through the franchise now.
Yeah. And I've noticed, and I'm sure it's part of your work with the affiliates, as well as maybe it's the corporate growth as well. Seeing the brand more nationally in the last few years. Is that your work that we're talking about, really?
Well, it's a team,
Yes.
but yes, for sure, because we went from 5 markets to over 40 markets in 3 years. And so, being in just one centralized area versus really growing across the country and now the Caribbean and now in Europe, it's been a big part of us getting the word out, both to the industry and also obviously to consumers as we launch and market. So if you're in a market where there's not a Corcoran, you're not seeing our marketing because we're not going to drive you to Corcoran.com, obviously, if we don't have homes in that market. So usually when we turn the lights on, literally in a market, people start to feel the brand pretty quickly because it's
Yeah.
really relevant.
So I can imagine. So tell me about market selection. What's interesting for you?
Yeah. So Corcoran is interesting because we don't describe ourselves as a luxury brand, even though we are a premium brand. And it's a sort of idiosyncrasy, but the reason is because A, luxury has just become so overused, but B, we are very consumer centric. We have a tagline which is "Live who you are," and it's really a lifestyle brand. And so we work at all price points, but we do really resonate in high-end urban, suburban, resort and second home markets. And so that's really driving our market selection, is being in the right markets, not every market, places where
Uh-huh.
the brand just makes perfect sense.
And do you find that is the New York City, like, I mean, I knew the brand from New York City as a New York City brand. Is that like a brand identity? Like, is that a pull that people recognize as like a New York City angle? Is it a Barbara angle, or both?
Not so much Barbara. I mean, I think it's been gone a long, long time. But
Yeah.
I think the things that make Barbara Barbara are still part of it's a female led company. It's we're very much about doing things differently than everybody else, and those things are sort of the DNA of the company. But Pam Liebman, who's our CEO, she's been with the company for 40 years. She's a dynamite, and so she really kind of drives a lot of that. But the brand, you're right, it has New York City roots, but as we've expanded, it looks a little bit different in every market we go to. So it's not like, it doesn't look the same in Hawaii that it does in Manhattan. And so technically it's a franchise, but I kind of describe it sometimes as a quasi franchise because we localize it with the help of the affiliate that we select in that market.
Oh, that's interesting. And
Yeah.
what kind of angles get localized? What does that mean, really?
So, for example, we have a relationship with an Italian illustrator named Simone Missoni, who you would recognize his work from like the New Yorker, and it's illustration. And so we do an illustration with when we bring a company on, they sign. We work with them very closely to customize an illustration for their market. We animate it, we make it part of their ads. And so in Hawaii, as my example, it's a hula girl. That's not something we would ever use in Manhattan. It's
Right.
certainly, very different than what we use in, Athens, Georgia, which is the home of the Georgia Bulldogs. So that's part of the illustration. So it's cool because we can still be independent and localized, but have a sort of sophistication and being able to take kind of advantage of the group buying power and the brilliance of our CMO.
Yeah, neat. That
Yeah, it's
is
fun.
yeah, like a sophisticated marketing that can sometimes be hard to find in real estate.
That's a whole other topic, but
Yeah.
it's funny because I think the business has come so far in the time that I've been, focused on high-end real estate marketing, but it's great to see. I mean, I start to see so much more taste, so much more sophistication, so much more elegance in real estate marketing than we saw even 5 years ago. We still have a long way to go, but it's fun to see it happening with Corcoran, which is not in any way a stuffy brand.
Yeah.
It's very much like, you're in the Bay Area, right? So it's more like your hoodies and sneaker kind of luxury than your Hermes tie kind of luxury,
Oh, it
if
is.
that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I like that. And I have seen, I can see market share in San Francisco. So like
Hmm.
there's definitely stuff happening here. That's really fascinating. It's always
Yeah.
the broker market share challenges are always fascinating for me to watch. And, over the last 10 years, like some of the real surprises and some mega growths in the branding and the Bay Area's had big shifts over the last 10 or 15
Probably the
years.
biggest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in who has a market share there. That's been really fascinating to watch. So that actually leads me to a question. Like, we're now in a period of contraction for realtors anyway, and
Yeah.
certainly the last 6 months in the whole industry, but like, um, how do you think about, so like you're in charge of growth, and a lot of growth is like, putting markets and people in there to do the work. In what is that? What is the world of working with real estate agents and running the business that way look in a period of contraction?
Yeah, in when we're in such an interesting moment in the evolution of the business. So we're really only 3 years into the franchising, and starting in the pandemic, and we came out of the gate really strong, and then the market, went off cliff,
Yeah.
and so
Like, I'm a
we've had sort of
genius.
highs and
Like,
lows,
look at all the good
right?
work I'm doing. Yeah.
That's it, right? Right. And
Yeah.
everyone sort of took all credit for that, but it's I actually don't see contraction as a bad thing. Um, I think we had when we have limited inventory, and you probably have a better pulse on the inventory problem than anybody else, but fewer people competing for listings is not a bad thing. I think we also got pretty bloated in the business, and so I think as the business changes, there's ways that you can be selective and thoughtful about that. But your question about growth, I think growth is the number one thing I think about every day. And I'm really proud of the growth that we've had in Corcoran. But part of the way we've done that is we've focused on growing. I sort of describe it as outside in and inside out. So obviously we're looking at bringing on new affiliates and new markets. But I have target markets, and if I can't find somebody in a market, I'm just not going to do the market. I'll just move on to a different market and then come back. And so that's kind of one pillar. Then obviously recruiting, essential to the whole conversation. And then one of the things I think we're doing really well is we're helping our affiliates grow through either recruiting or by M&A. And so the M&A piece actually has become one of my favorite parts of the job. And it's just healthy to have a lot of avenues and opportunities for growth, so that when one sort of slows, you have opportunities to pick it up in other places too.
Yeah. And does M&A, does that suddenly get cheaper? Like, is that a path to growth this year? Like, is there
Yeah.
suddenly there's valuations change and things like that?
For sure. I mean, people aren't making the kind of money they were making 2 years ago, and nobody's evaluating a company on 2020 numbers, or 2021 numbers. It's crazy. People are doing a blend of maybe the 3 or 4 years before that, but no one's going to give you a 10 multiple on your 2021 number.
Right, right.
If they do, take it and run. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, but
Ye-
I think that there are more opportunities, because I think people unfortunately are just out over their skis. And so the smart brokers, I think, have some money in their coffers, and they're strategically buying right now.
Yeah, that of course happens in those cycles, right? We it's a boom and bust industry, and so that certainly happens in that time. You mentioned that you were when we were talking that you just come back from Italy. So tell me about international, the global expansion, and is the world on the same cycles as the U.S.
Mm.
Boom and bust wise?
Yeah, so interesting. So yeah, we in 2021 we launched our first Caribbean affiliate, so technically international, and obviously it made sense because of the markets we were in, and then that lifestyle piece of it. And then we just launched our first affiliate in Europe, in Italy, and interestingly, it's in Lake Garda, which some people may or may not even heard of, but Lake Garda is between Lake Como and Venice. It's on the north side of Italy, and it's near Germany. So a lot of the buyers there are German. In fact, I was joking. People kept asking me, like, "Sprechen Sie Deutsch?" because I have blonde hair and I look German, but absolutely 100% inventory was the biggest thing they were complaining about. They said, we've got buyers, we just don't have the inventory. So, I think it does change country to country and politics and economies and all of that. But, part of the reason this company joined us was because they want help with growing. They want to move to new markets. So the same things that the U.S. companies. This is a 50-year-old family company,
Yeah.
and to pick right now to join a franchise, it's just that the challenges are very similar.
Interesting. Yeah. And the it has been wild to watch some of the big, I don't know Italy at all, but some of the big markets that have been in they've been in super boom pricing and tight inventory. Um, and we talk about tight inventory in the U.S. and we've been underbuilding, but it can't be all underbuilding because it's tight inventory everywhere in the
It's not.
world. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose
It's
in a
not.
place like northern Italy, it's not really a new construction market.
There's some
Yeah.
certainly, but it's not like high rises. It's different. It's like high end luxury homes and some spectacular ones, by the way. Yeah, no, I think it's, but materials, right? Pandemic caused materials to go up all around the world. And so the cost of building went up. And so the cost of acquisition goes up. And so it's that sort of classic supply and demand.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So I'm curious to get your take on the U.S. market, and like we've it slowed way down this spring. There was some green shoots there. Tell me about what you're seeing, what you can tell me like via the franchises. Like what do you see on the U.S. market this year?
Yeah, I think to your point, right? So things slowed down. I think spring we saw some things picking up a little bit. It depended on the market, but I think things in the west of the U.S. have been much more challenged than the east, for sure. Um, Maybe sort of the Rockies west into Hawaii. Obviously we're still in a uniquely challenging market. I think the mortgage rate stabilization, no matter where it lands, is going to continue. And it's so emotional, right? So when mortgage rates are going up and down and crazy, people are just frozen. And so I think the stabilization of mortgage rates is already, I think we're seeing some things been getting a little bit better there. But, as we were saying, personally, my biggest concern is inventory. In some markets, we see the market off north of 50%, and that's really due to lack of inventory. And obviously it's sellers that are not willing to, they're tied into these 3% mortgage rates and they don't want to put their homes on the market. But it's also, as you said, builders, having been impacted by the pandemic. And so I think that the economists all seem to believe that the second half of the year will be better than the first two quarters. I think I suspect the summer is likely going to continue to be pretty slow, just sort of how things are as we're going into May. Hopefully the pent up demand will make it a more robust fall market. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm hopeful.
You're hopeful. That's good.
Yeah.
Me too. We do you have you noticed? So we have broad trends in the U.S., of course, and we had as rates rose. One
Hmm.
of the challenges is the affordability challenge. Like home prices went
Yeah.
up a lot, and then rates went up. Does affordability impact the luxury or the high end stuff that you guys do? Is it a different equation, or is that part of the discourse with the brokers and agents?
Yeah. No, it definitely is part of the discourse. I think that luxury is always impacted a little bit differently than everything else. I think ultimately when you're dealing with a discretionary purchase, the drivers are different. We have a population of people that have now not inherited their wealth. They've worked really hard to achieve success. And then a generation below that are beginning to inherit wealth. And so it's this interesting combination of where wealth is building from. And people in the pandemic, just people who had money made a lot more money and, they can afford what they want. And so they buy it. But, they also don't want to make bad decisions. And I think, we sometimes, you look at like a Warren Buffett and people are like, oh, he's so cheap. Well, how do you think he got so wealthy? Right. He makes good decisions. And so I don't think wealthy people are making foolish decisions. They're, if they want it, they'll buy it. Put it that way.
Right.
But they're not going to overpay and be stupid about it.
Right, right. And so even if they could afford it, it still feels expensive, and they still pull off and don't make the decision. No, they
Well,
don't make the call not to.
right, for sure. I mean, and the cost of money is expensive. And so if you're, like oftentimes someone who buys a multi-million dollar home will buy it in cash, usually, often as much as 75% of the time. But then they'll get a mortgage and because money is cheap or it was cheap. And so, those same people are still locked into a mortgage and they don't want to, again, make foolish decisions. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that is it is it'll be really fascinating to see. If we roll into recession, we've
Mm.
like it's been signals for it, but we haven't gotten there
What do you
yet.
think?
Do
What do you
you?
think? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a take on not I mean, I'm interested in your take
Yeah.
if one's coming, but also like what happens to the industry and to real estate in particular, in a recessionary environment, right? Now we just had the slowdown because of rates, but what happens about in a recessionary environment?
Yeah, I think it's just we hit a massive pause. And if you look in history, that's kind of what we've seen in the past too. And so people probably move out of the business and focus on other things for a few years. And, I think it's a worst case scenario. And I'm really hopeful it doesn't happen. But I feel like there's a lot of smart people working on this and we're skirting it so far. So, I mean, I suppose technically we haven't, right? There's been quarters where we're technically in a recession. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. I appreciate that. So let's talk then about uh, other elements of the trends that you're seeing out there, like other big trends that we've that are like impacting your business, or that like things I should be paying attention to out there.
Yeah, I think it's I think service, it's funny because it's a complicated market right now, both for agents and for consumers. And so I think for brokerages and agents that are truly experts in their field and really are focused on providing like a high level of service, I think clients are gravitating to those people. And same with brokerages. So brokerages that really are there, not just the like discount brokerages, but are really there to like provide full service. We're seeing a lot of really great full service brands and companies thriving. So I think that's a big part of the sort of complexity in this moment in time. And I would say maybe what we kind of referenced before on the design piece of it, I think there's a deeper appreciation and gravitation towards creative and elevated marketing, and to brands that mean something. I think people have just become more sophisticated, and they care about the brand that's in their front lawn, and they want to know that it's something that they want to be attached to. And so the intrinsic value of good design. And at the end of the day, we know that a brand, a lot of times the marks and the things that make its design unique are what drive its value. And I think we're starting to see that in real estate more, and
That's
will continue.
Yeah, that's a really uh, an interesting thread I'd like to pull on there. You said that full service in brokerage is thriving, and if you were to just pay attention to the headlines or the tech
Well,
trends,
yeah, in the
what,
luxury space.
what's that? In the luxury
In the
space. Okay,
luxury
great. Yeah, yeah.
space.
So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
So like you would, or you listen, I live in San Francisco, like you listen to the tech people, it's like, how do you remove everybody out of that trend, like,
Yeah,
and leave nothing left, no service left. Like, tell
yeah.
me about when you say that full service is thriving, even if it is like in your space focused in the luxury space.
Mhm.
What do you see there? What does that mean?
Yeah, I think people are, particularly when they have complicated transactions that are expensive luxury properties, agents need help with that. And they need a broker that can be there to help them with that. So, not so much a discount brokerage, but someone who has, like full services, who can help them with mortgage, who can help them with everything that they need. Right. So that's a piece of, I think, what we're seeing. And then on the consumer side too, when you have a more significant property, you need really sophisticated marketing, and you need a sophisticated marketer, and you need a lot of support and the resources that come with that. So you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, kind of what I mean.
Do you notice when you think about the strategy of your affiliates, do you do you find that they are like, does their method of delivery of that transaction and the marketing, is that substantially the same as it's been, like, because it's like the full service is full service, or is that changing with technology or other trends?
I certainly think, I mean, technology enables everyone to be better at their jobs, but I don't think it's taking away what a traditional agent does. So like chat GDP is just such a great example, right? Like it's just the hottest thing, but is it going to replace a real estate agent? No, it's not going to. Does it write a great agent bio? I think yes, absolutely. Like that's a really creative way of using it. But, like one of the things that we have is we have a listing presentation tool that was built by Corcoran in Manhattan. So Manhattan doesn't have an MLS,
Right.
and a lot of people don't even realize that. And so obviously you do, but, so the team had to develop things that were, because all the tools that were out in the industry that are all dependent that, we just connect to the MLS. Well, they didn't have an MLS. So the Corcoran team built it. So it's a really beautiful online listing presentation tool. It's something that we make available to all of our affiliates. It's elegant. It's just simple and it's easy to use. And so, our agents going in with just giant boxes and doing presentations and big brochures? Not anymore. They're texting a listing presentation to somebody. And that way, I think technology is evolving and it's making our lives easier, but I don't think it's replacing what we do.
Yeah. Okay. And really, what I'm getting at is is like that the future of the agent and the future of the brokerage. We've had a bunch of changes, and the industry's like going through that, and the shift to teams and those kind of things. How are those impacting you at Corcoran, and what do you see the future for the industry?
I think I'll sort of pick on an interesting thing because we sort of touched on it a little bit. I am consistently surprised that more brokers are not focused on building out services to work with developers. And so when we talk about, an inventory problem and developers potentially being the solution for that, I think that there's a future big opportunity for more real estate brokerages and agents to be very comfortable pitching to developers, marketing developments, and really providing more services for that. And we happen to be have a sister company that's called Corcoran Sunshine, which is a development marketing business, and we just recently finished a course that we provide for our affiliates around development fundamentals so that our agents can pitch for that business. And so I think it's a huge opportunity. And, like I said, it's just shocking to me how few brokers, and people are really intimidated by developers, and, they can beat you up for sure. But, I think it's a big opportunity, and it's something that will be a future place that we can find inventory in potentially a further out inventory challenge market.
Yeah. People they're intimidated by developers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Okay.
are. I mean, because it's different. It's like an RFP process. It's not like your traditional listing presentation,
Yeah. Okay.
offering
That's
offering
terrific.
pre-development services like a site selection and unit mix. And that's not your typical skill set for an agent.
I suppose. Okay, for sure. Um, so, are there signals, like data signals, that you see, that you get by virtue of having your affiliates all over the country? Like, are there things that you see that give you insight to the world that's unique? Maybe unique for like what's happening with luxury properties around the country.
Yeah, sure. I mean, on the data, I mean, and for your mind, the way your brain works, like the data signals, right? I think not necessarily unique to luxury, but obviously one of the things we really, really watch is agent migration. And so we can understand sort of where people are going and who's winning and who's losing. And, a lot of people write about that. And it's all, I think, very much a reflection of this sort of parallelization that's happening right now. And so, we really, I think for brokers that can rush into the void with information and stats and data and the kind of information that you provide, market intel, and arming people with facts is just a great way to sort of move people, because we just are seeing so much parallelization right now.
Yeah, and do you notice like across your affiliates, like are you guys like in Austin, or do you have like uh
Yeah.
where are you seeing that migration? Do you have like, Bozeman, Montana, that you had some pandemic migration there? What were some good examples?
So it's funny because where we've grown is markets where people moved during the pandemic. So, I sort of mentioned urban, high end, suburban resort, second home. and then pandemic markets, because those were the markets that, so like 30A in the panhandle of Florida. I had personally never even been there before I joined Corcoran.
Yeah.
And I've been in luxury real estate for a long time. And I was like, 30A, what is 30A? And it's Santa Rosa Beach, Rosemary Beach. And this was an area of Florida. It's like white sand beaches. It's absolutely spectacular. It looks like Cancun. It
Yeah.
is gorgeous. And they have done so much development. And so anyway, I mean, people flooded to that market during the pandemic and it grew. And so our broker that was, I think our second or third broker that was Corcoran, they're quintuple the size that they were just 3 years ago. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And I mentioned Athens, Georgia. That's a good example too. We're not yet in Atlanta, but we're in Athens, because Athens has been on fire because people were moving, to places that are a little more affordable and where they can work from home. Right. And so we're not in Austin currently. I sit in Austin, as I think but we're not here yet, unfortunately. And so, yeah, those resort second home markets. So we're in the BVI, we're in the Bahamas, Puerto Rico. Oh my God, Puerto Rico has been on fire. I mean, honest to God, that market, like there's a St. Regis in Puerto Rico that's like $7,000 a square foot. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that Puerto Rico? Is that the tax refugee migration?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, that's
Exactly.
really fascinating. Um, and it seems like it's very impactful for Puerto Rico, that program. Like a lot of people moving there and buying houses and doing things. So hopefully that's a
Yeah.
long-term great things. I'm interested in Athens. So, and actually Panhandle 30A, I don't know the label 30A either. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's literally a street, and it's fun
Oh,
because
yeah,
our
it's like the
broker.
highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, that's interesting. So in Athens, are the people moving to Athens, are they like New York moving to Athens, or is it Atlanta moving to Athens?
It's Atlanta, Savannah, the Carolinas, Charlotte, some New York, but there's a thing, it's not so much Athens, but like Jacksonville. I don't know if you know this, they call it Jacksonville halfback, because people from New York move to Miami and then they don't like it in Miami. And so they move halfway back into Jacksonville. And
Yeah,
so Jacksonville is a booming market as well.
interesting. And you guys are in
But
Jacksonville?
Athens we're not currently,
No,
but
okay.
we've
But
been
yeah, as a growth
been
market, yeah, it is indeed
got
like
my
there's a
eye on
lot of
it.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Athens is, it's just one of those things. It's like it has a cool factor like Austin, but way less expensive. And, it probably what Austin was like in the 70s, in terms of development. I mean, it's still a pretty small town, but it's got a great lifestyle, great music. REM is from there,
Yeah.
famously. And, and they've
It's a
got a good
college
sports
town.
scene. It's college town. Yeah. But interesting, like there's an entire building, like the Georgia Bulldogs, it's a thing. And so like there's an entire, building that's right by the stadium, that's the Bulldog Stadium, and so people buy units there just to go down to stay there during the Georgia Bulldogs games.
Oh, yes, I can
Isn't that-
imagine. I can imagine if
yeah,
you're going to town, right? It's like going to buying your ski condo, you're buying
yeah,
your football condo.
that's it, right? Totally. And then like BVI and Bahamas, obviously there was a lot of like crypto money. I mean, like big time.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of fun to watch too.
Yeah, and is that shut off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Although I did hear of one last week, but no,
Okay.
it's pretty much,
Interesting.
it's
Yeah,
quiet.
that was
Yeah.
quite a cycle, but maybe
Dramatic.
there's a little bit of recovery in some of the crypto markets, although like the big stuff seems to be past that peak of the cycle there. Um,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's really great. I love getting some of those insights about some of those markets. Are really neat. Um, let's talk about the realtors and challenges or things that like the good franchises or realtors are doing well right now. Like what should we be paying attention to? Like especially in the tougher market.
Yeah, for sure. It's so boring. Sorry if this is just a boring Mike answer, but like the best companies, they know how to save for a rainy day because they've seen this story before, you
Yeah.
know? And like at the end of the day, this is, I mean, how many cycles have you been through? It's been at least 3 or 4 for me. So, they are people that save their money and make thoughtful decisions, and even at the boom times. So, I was at RAS Media last year in wherever it was, at an event, and I heard someone speak, and they were saying the best companies in budget based on their 2019 numbers and like how much their average sale price went up from 2018 to 2019, and have continued to budget for that amount in this whole time, which I thought was brilliant, because it's like, don't sort of take the market going up in such a crazy way and, take credit for it. Just be kind of conscientious about the way you're making money, or you're saving your money. But I think that those same brokers aren't afraid of making bold and early decisions with the cash that they conserve, because they know that now is a good time to take advantage of the moment. So kind of as we started the conversation, while others aren't making money, now is a good time to take advantage, frankly, of buying companies and buying market share, particularly when recruiting is a little bit harder.
Yeah. And have you seen standout agents or teams doing well that are doing some interesting things in the Corcoran network?
Yeah, I think the agents that are really killing it right now are the ones that have really spent a lot of time kind of working on themselves, so that when everyone else is like worried about the market, they're worried about themselves, and they're taking education courses, and they're brushing up their skill set, and they're super involved, and they're still really networking, and they're also really focused on getting listings. And getting listings is harder, but I think the agents that are getting listings are the ones that are winning.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that is a tough one. Now, and of course, in the high end, the luxury space, I assume, maybe I'm wrong, but I assume that you don't really focus on young agents. Most of your agents are more experienced. Is that true, or do you also have younger, newer agents that are in your mix?
Yeah, I mean, there are younger, newer agents. That there is a lot of mature, sort of more seasoned agents for sure. But yeah, no, we definitely have younger agents, than agents that are, I think, humble and hungry and sort of willing to do whatever they need to do to learn from the more seasoned agents. And yeah, it's always fun for me to meet younger agents that are just really wanting to, like, it's cute actually. I met an agent a couple of weeks ago who I think, when I describe Corcoran as kind of being hoodies and jeans and sneakers, and this agent showed up at our conference, we just had our conference in Nashville, and he showed up in a 3-piece suit. And I was like, oh, honey, you don't totally need to do that here, because, this is a more casual environment. And he's like, no, he's like, I want to dress for success, and I'm going to differentiate myself by showing you all how seriously I take this. And you know what? I deeply respect that too. And like I said, our tagline is "Live who you are." So it's like, hey, we celebrate everything.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's something to be said for that. There is a, like if you have a personal style that is that powerful, you should express it that way.
And it exudes confidence, and people are attracted to confidence, right? So, if you're willing to take a risk and put yourself out there and be different than everybody else, because who's wearing a 3-piece suit these days?
Yeah.
I was talking to him.
Yeah,
he's great.
That's
he's great.
You do you have other guidance for new agents? So you've been around the space for a while. You now have a bunch of agents in the umbrella under your portfolio. Like, what do you tell people that are just starting to build the business now?
Yeah. Always ask lots of questions, and never be afraid to sound dumb, because that's something that somebody advised me of. And it's such good advice, because, to raise your hand and say, like, I don't know, and don't be afraid to ask. I think that people that are generally, deeply inquisitive, are always learning, and they're super humble about it. If you can be super humble and just sort of like say, I want to soak it all in, and I want to learn from all these amazing people around me, they really take advantage of the opportunity to learn. And so I would say that. And then also maybe like not to get distracted by the noise. I think we have so much noise in this business, and it's never gone away. There's always just this chatter, and it's really easy to get sucked into that. And, remaining focused on your business and your goals and the people around you and your values and ethics, I think you can't lose.
Yeah, that's right. That's nice. Can't lose. There's a quote. There's the pull quote. 70 says you can't lose in real estate. It's funny. I realized we jumped in. We started talking about Corcoran and the work you're doing, but we didn't actually talk about how you got to this role and like your path here. What was the background? So you were leading RE, and
Yeah.
but you tell me about the path.
Yeah, I mean, I joined Realogy actually it was Realogy at the time, in July of 2020. So very shortly after we launched the Corcoran brand, and like I said, it was just such a huge opportunity for me. And I had worked in franchising early in my career, back when GMAC was in the real estate business. You might remember when Pacific Union was owned by GMAC.
Yeah.
That was my first job in real estate. So I was the director of communications and internet. I love that. Yeah. And this was a little bit of a return home for me because I had that experience in my past. But what was really cool was that they gave me the opportunity to come and help grow Corcoran. But they also, because I had a lot of international experience, I was the head of service for international for all of the brands within the Anywhere umbrella, other than Sotheby's, because they had their own servicing model. So I worked on Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, BHG, and Corcoran. And I did that. I ran service for the 5 brands for the first year and a half, while I also did the Corcoran job. Huge opportunity for me. It was amazing. Sadly, I didn't get to do any travel in that time, but then I was promoted to the president of Corcoran back at the beginning of 22. So yeah, I was I had an opportunity to do that, and then now I'm focused just on Corcoran,
That's not Corcoran.
and mostly just because it's been a huge success, and we just want to be thoughtful about it, and it's not something that the brand was developed 50 years ago. So we want to be careful and strategic and thoughtful about the way we grow the brand. And so we've learned a lot, I think, in these first couple of years, good and bad. And, but it's been fun. It's an honor.
Yeah. Do you have some lessons that you're like taking forward now in the for the next few years as you're building it?
Totally. Yeah. And actually at the upcoming Real Trends conference, that's my topic is the top 10 lessons learned from a fast growing brand. So I'll give you a sneak peek of one of them, which is, I think one of the things we've done really, really well is to grow thoughtfully. We're really focused on aligning with values and ensuring that the people that we partner with are focused on growth, love the brand, really understand the brand, and then make it come to life locally. So I think it's different than how other people are growing brands, and it's cool. It's fun.
Excellent. And in case the listeners, in case they didn't catch it, Stephanie will be at the Real Trends Gathering of Eagles conference with me. Also, I'll be there in June, and we will make sure we post links to that if you want to join us there and see Stephanie speak, and a lot of the really great leaders in the industry, brokerage as well as technology and mortgage and folks. So lots of really cool stuff happening that week in
Yeah, it
June.
looks like a good lineup.
It's a great lineup, yeah, for sure. That's terrific. Cool. Let's talk about so growth thoughtfully. I like that, and then let's shift to more future stuff. What do you see for the industry and for the market in the next few years? Are there big ideas that we should be paying attention to? So I always ask my guests this, like, it's 2023. We're already halfway through the year. What's your vision for the latter half of this decade? Like, what do you see coming in real estate, in the industry, in home buying?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say I think it's going to be fundamentally different, but I just don't know that it's going to be. I mean, that just comes from doing this a long time, and maybe I'm biased, but at the end of the day, like I think about, there's some big things happening with like antitrust and, things potentially that could change the way agents are compensated. And that I think could be the most watershed thing that could impact our business. And, hopefully that actually could be really, really damaging for a lot of brands and companies. So, hopefully we get through that on the upside. But beyond that, I think that like, if you actually zoom out and you look at the progression or the innovation that's happened in our business, I think that real estate has been pretty behind so many other industries. And ultimately, I think, we have a lot of rules and regulations and laws that and complicated things like MLSs that sort of inhibit our ability to really pivot and change significantly. So, I think that it'll be much of the same. More sophisticated, I think more elevated, more elegant, more technology for sure. I think there will be fewer agents doing more of the business, just like I think there's fewer companies doing more of the business. Just like we're seeing consolidation in MLSs, we're seeing consolidation in brokerages. Everyone's kind of eating everybody else, and I think we are going to see far fewer brands and individual firms. It's harder and harder for an independent to be competitive, considering the landscape of all of the consolidation that's happening. And so particularly with the market kind of being the way it is right now, and, hopefully not too much longer, but I think we're going to continue to see more and more consolidation.
And have you seen a trend towards teams in the Corcoran?
Yeah, a little bit.
A
Not
little
the
bit.
mega teams though. Yeah, not like what you see in some of the other brands.
Right. You're
No.
not in Sacramento trying to do 400 houses a year kind of transaction
Yeah,
volume. Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
the but fewer agents and fewer brokers doing more of the business.
I think so. Yeah, I do. Kind of just the way things have, the trajectory that we're on. And as this gets more complicated, and as we're seeing contraction in the business, I mean, we just saw, right, like the NAR came out and said they have less agents than we've had in the past. And so I think, like I said, I'm not so sure that's the bad thing. So,
I
you
have
know,
a hypothesis that the number of agents, because it's easy to enter and to exit the realtor ranks, is that it's actually a great example of a perfectly efficient market, which means we always have the exact right number of agents. It's
interesting.
not too high or too low, because when we
Yeah.
need more, they're there. Now we have too many, so they go away. So my hypothesis is that despite lots of people always like to grumble about there's too many agents out there, that I view that we have exactly the right number always, and
So I
and
have a
so
funny analogy for you.
okay.
Bear with me, but it's called an expandable consumable in the consumer packaged goods business. So potato chips are an expandable consumable. Cereal is an expandable consumable, which simply means that you have just as much. You will eat everything you have. Right. And so, right, if like potato chips, like you'll eat the entire bag of potato chips. If you have two, you will eat two bags of potato chips. And so I never thought about it before, but maybe real estate agents are the same way.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
There's another pull
That's
quote: how
why
real estate agents are like a bag of potato chips. Um,
that's why consumer packaged goods companies do so much couponing, right? I worked for General Mills at one point in my career when I was in grad school, and you analyze the data, the shopping cart data, and you determine who's buying cereal and how you can incent them to buy more cereal because they will eat as much as you can get them to purchase. It's
yeah,
fascinating.
that's
Yeah.
wild. That's really fascinating. So yeah, so that the number of real estate agents expands to fill the market available very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
I
I
like
like
it.
it.
So and therefore I think it's really great. But of course everybody else is like, wait, now there's more competition. And if you're in there already, like you feel that.
Yeah.
And so,
Particularly in a reduced inventory environment. It's just
yes,
tough.
right, for sure.
Yeah.
And then in a dramatically reduced transaction volume. So then in a reduced agent world, in a reduced brokerage world, is that good for Corcoran?
Um, it's fine for us because we're looking for the right people, not the most people, and that's okay.
Yep.
Frankly, in an environment where people have some more challenges, joining a franchise can give them more solutions. And so it's not a bad thing for us, actually. The harder the market is, a lot of times people say, okay, now is a time where I can recognize that a franchise will give me some of the things that I need. So in some ways it helps us, but kind of back to what I said before about we're not in Boston yet. I need to be in Boston, but I'm not going to go to Boston just to go to Boston. I want to make sure that we find the right player in Boston. And so, in a challenged market, the right player might be more incented to join Corcoran.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I like it. That's terrific. That's maybe a great place to leave it. Where should people find you or find more about Corcoran? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, it's Corcoran.com, right? Or I'm just Stephanie.Anton@Corcoran.com. And I'm always, I respond to all my email, and I'm always happy to get questions and connect with people. And I will take any meeting and any conversation because I just love learning. So
Lovely.
always happy to.
Great. Well, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing you in Austin for the Gathering of Eagles conference, and
Me too.
I'll leave a link for folks to connect. I think we actually have if you're listening, there's an Altos listener discount, an Altos Friends of Altos discount for the Gathering of Eagles, so you can use the coupon code if you want to join us there. And I'm looking forward to much more. Stephanie, thank you so much for the time today. It was really insightful, and it's exactly what I wanted to get out of the call.
That's always great to talk to you, Mike. Always. You're fascinating.
Terrific.
I learned a lot.
Great. Thanks. All right, everybody. This is the Top of Mind podcast. Thanks for joining me this week. We'll be back next week or two with more really fascinating leaders in the industry. If you like the podcast, I really appreciate a review, some stars, some thumbs up, so that other people can find the podcast. That's really helpful to us. And we'll be back more soon. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to Top of Mind. If you enjoyed the show, I'd really appreciate leaving a nice review on your favorite podcast app. That helps other people find us as well. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. See you soon.